तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सवना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So today we'll be continuing to see the further shlokas describing the 10 subject matters of Bhagavatam. So we saw few shlokas which are describing these 10 subject matters. So we saw also that the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, which is having the complete knowledge, or which is giving us the complete knowledge of everything about the entire creation. And now Shukadeva Goswami himself is going to describe this in more elaboration, and he has identified 10 different subject matters that are there, and he's going to describe that in detail, right? So let's see this particular thing. So sloka number 5. Avataranucharitam hareschasyanuvartinam pumsam ishakata prokta nanakyanopabrahmhitah. So this thing. The science of God describes the incarnations of the personality of Godhead and its different activities together with the activities of his great devotees. Purport. During the course of the existence of the cosmic manifestation, the uh, chronology of of history is created, recording the activities of the living entities. People in general have a tendency to learn the history and narrations of different men and times, but due to lack of knowledge, the science of God, knowledge in the science of God, they are not apt to study the history of the incarnations of the personality of Godhead. It should always be remembered that the material creation is created for the salvation of conditioned souls. The merciful Lord, out of his causeless mercy, descends to various planets in the material world and acts for the salvation of the conditioned souls. That makes the history and narrations worth reading. Srimad Bhagavatam offers such transcendental topics of the Lord in relationship with great devotees. Therefore, the topics of devotees and the Lord are to be given respectful oral reception. So this, like the description about Avataranucharitam. So this various like incarnations of the Lord, they are very, very important for us. So in this world also people have made a lot of history, and they have kept records of so many things. But then this history keeps fading off. People keep changing the history books. Nobody is having the interest in reading the same old history of this world. And no, and we see that the traditional and the standard history books, we have the itihasa. Itihasa means like the actual history of the world, right? And why is this itihasa, like Ramayana and Mahabharata? So all of them, they are still very active and still very current. And still people, even now, if somebody telecasts Ramayana or Mahabharata, so many people would watch. Why is it so? So it is because it is all having the touch of the Supreme Lord that makes it lively, and that makes it really, what is it, no, live. So the modern history, no, it is as good as dead actually. So the modern history doesn't have much of life in it because it doesn't describe about the activities of the Lord. So to find a kind of taste in it, no, people have to keep changing it. No, material activities means people have to keep changing it. Without changing it, it cannot be tasty. It cannot be like nice. So that's the problem of the material activities, right? So now let's see. No, this Srimad Bhagavatam actually it offers the history of the world in terms of the with embedded with the pastimes of the Lord, and Lord comes just for the purpose of saving the living entities, and this whole material creation is meant for the salvation of the living entities, and the Supreme Lord comes in different avatars just to facilitate that particular end. So that's why the Lord's avatar is tightly coupled with the actual purpose of the creation, and his narrations about his activities are of utmost importance, and we should have a respectful oral reception for them, right? Text 6. Nirodho Shanu Sayanam Atmana Saha Shaktibihi Muktir Hitvanyatha Rupam Swarupena Pyavastitihi. So this is something that Prabhupada often used to quote. No, the second portion of the sloka. So that is Muktir Hitva means to give up. Anyata Rupam. So all other different forms. Muktir Hitva Anyata Rupam Swarupena Avastitihi. Vyavastitihi. So Swarupa means Swa means one's own. Rupa means like the form. So to be established in one's own form is the meaning of Mukti. Muktir Hitva Anyata Rupam Swarupena Vyavastitihi. So this is the actual definition of mukti. So generally the Mayavadis understanding, or the impersonalists, jnanis, all these personalities, for them mukti means to get out of this material world. Mukti means to they're so much worried about the miseries of this world, and they just simply want to get out of the miseries of this world, right? So that is conventional or commonly known meaning of the mukti. Mukti means to get liberated from suffering that is they are undergoing. So, but here the actual definition is given: Muktir Hitva Anyata Rupam. So, mukti is not just getting out of misery. Mukti is to be established in one's own Swarupa. That is, Swarupa is to be servant of the Supreme Lord, right? So, that is the actual this one. So, in fact, another shloka also Prabhupada often quotes is Sarva Upadi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam, right? So this is also like to give up all other designations or all other identities that I have. No, I am a male or a female, or I'm so and so big person in this society. I'm respected by so many people, or I'm not respected by so many people. So these are all material designation. So this we have to give up, and we have to understand that we are the spirit soul servant of Krishna. So that is the only way we can actually become happy, and we can be situated in our own original position, right? So we have to practice this, and we have to induce others to also practice this. So that's the way of achieving mukti. Otherwise, it is not possible. If we dwell on the material aspects too much, so then our chance for contemplating on Supreme Lord goes for toss, and then we will end up staying here, birth after birth. So our contemplation on the material things should reduce, and our contemplation on the spiritual things should increase. That is the way of that's the way of actually going back to the spiritual world, and that's the way of mukti. So if we are too much contemplative about the material things, or the material fallacies of this world and things like that, so then whatever is our contemplation, whatever occupies our space, mental space a lot, and we will end up there, right? So it is whether we contemplate on it positively or negatively, right? So if we are attached to this material world, saying, oh, this material world is nice place to exploit, there is so much of happiness around here and things like that, that's one aspect. And the other aspect is, oh, this material world is too much of suffering. You see, here suffering, there suffering, everywhere it's suffering. So then also the contemplation is primarily on the matter. So wherever the contemplation is, we will be there. We are going to be there. We are not going to get liberated. So it is very important that Muktir Hitva Anyata Rupam and Swarupena Vyavastitihi. Our Swarupa is to be servant of the Supreme Lord, and we have to start contemplating on that. and we have to induce others to also contemplate on that. So that's the way of our mukti and everyone else's mukti, right? So that's the way we have to actually do that. So the merging of the living entity along with his conditional living tendency, uh, with the mystic lying down of Mahavishnu, is called the winding up of the cosmic manifestation. Liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable gross and subtle material bodies. Right. So this Nirodha, Nirodha, Muktir, Ashraya, like the three subjects, the last three subjects we saw, Nirodha means like going back to the spiritual world, right? So here we see that Nirodha here also means the winding up of the cosmic manifestation. Nirodha Ashya of his Anushayanam, the lying down of the Purusha incarnation, that is in Mahavishnu in his mystic slumber. So this merging of the living entity along with this conditional living tendency with the mystic lying down of Mahavishnu is called the winding up of cosmic manifestation. So this is the duration at the time of Pralaya, at the time of end of one day of Brahma. So what happens is no Pralaya. And during the Pralaya, what actually happens is all the living entities, they all go into a hibernation mode. So if I am contaminated with the mode of passion and somebody else is contaminated with mode of ignorance, so we will go and rest in the body of Mahavishnu. So here it's mentioned the merging of the living entity along with this conditional living tendency, and in the in the Mahavishnu who's lying down in the mystic slumber. So we will be entering the body of Mahavishnu and we will be staying up there for the duration of one night of Brahma, or a period of time till the next Brahma actually takes charge. And then when that happens, so then again the living entities from the body of Mahavishnu are released, and the Brahma creates the bodies for these living entities. The person who died with mode of passion, so he will again be given, from whichever point he stopped, he will be asked to start again from there, right? So again, the whole material creation is let loose. So this is how this merging of the living entity and with his conditional tendency, with the mystic lying down of Mahavishnu happens. That's called the winding up of the cosmic creation. So this wind up and recreation keeps happening again and again and again. So this wind up happens at multiple levels. So one kind of wind up happens, that is called partial annihilation. So wherein till Swargaloka everything is destroyed, at the end of Manvantara. And then at the end of one day of Brahma. So in one day of Brahma, there is 14 Manvantaras are there. So in each of the Manvantaras, like a whole set of the Devatas, like whole set of the 33 crore Devatas, they actually officiate their positions. And at the end of Manvantara, the Pralaya actually washes off till the Swargaloka. All the 33 crore Devatas are also removed from their positions. So higher planets, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and places like that, they remain. So, but then at the end of day of Brahma, one day of Brahma, even like up till Brahmaloka, just below Brahmaloka, whatever is there, everything is washed off. Brahma has to create everything again back, except for his planet. But then at the end of the life of Brahma, so 100 years of Brahma, so then the whole universe is destroyed. So there is multiple levels of annihilation or pralaya that happens. So, and different times, different kinds of destruction happens. So at the end of Manvantara till Swarga, and then at the end of one day of Brahma, like 13 planetary systems are finished. Only Brahma's planetary system is remaining. And then at the end of the life of Brahma, all the 14 planetary systems are finished and everything is retracted and kept in the body of Mahavishnu. So in this way, like the whole pralaya is happening. And then this is one aspect, that is winding up of cosmic creation, that is Nirodha. And then Mukti, Nirodha, Mukti, Ashraya. So these are the subjects. So Nirodha is explained and Mukti is being explained now. Liberation is the permanent situation of the form of living entity after he gives up the changeable gross and subtle material bodies. So that means the liberation in Brahmajyoti is also not very perfect. That is not that is not fitting up to the level of the definition of mukti. The actual definition of mukti is like muktir hitva anyata rupam swarupena vyavastitihi, right? So let's see the purport. As we have discussed several times, there are two types of living entities. Most of them are ever liberated, that is Nitya Muktas. They are residents of the Vaikuntha Loka. And then while some of them are ever conditioned, Nitya Baddha, right? So all of us who are living in the material world, so we are come in the category of Nitya Baddha. So the ever conditioned souls are apt to develop a mentality of lording over the material nature, and therefore the material cosmic creation is manifested to give the ever conditioned souls two kinds of facilities. One facility is that the conditioned soul can act according to his tendency to lord it over the cosmic manifestation. So that facility is given through the three modes of nature. So like whichever way the living entity wants to control and lord over the material nature, the modes of nature actually facilitates that. But then in whichever combination we try to enjoy this material nature, the only result is misery and suffering, because we are not meant to enjoy. So we are meant to offer enjoyment to Krishna. No, that's our position. So we artificially try to lord over the material nature. Obviously there will be miseries. So but then the provision is given. So here it's mentioned the provision is given for both. So if somebody wants to enjoy the material world, the provision is given. And if somebody wants to surrender to the Lord and serve the Lord, so the provision is given. So both the provisions are given. So and the living entities are free to choose whichever they want, right? So yeah, so one facility is that the conditioned soul can act according to his tendency to lord it over the cosmic manifestation, and the other facility gives the conditioned soul a chance to come back to Godhead. So after the winding up of the cosmic manifestation, most of the conditioned souls merge into the existence of Mahavishnu, personality of Godhead, lying in his mystic slumber. Now we saw in the Brahma Samhita, Ya Karanarnava Jale Bhajatim Sma Yoga Nidram, right? So he lies down in the Karana ocean in the Yoga Nidra, and from his breathing comes innumerable universes. And when he is inhaling, this is what happened. The most of the conditioned soul merge into the existence of Mahavishnu, the personality of Godhead, lying in his mystic slumber to create again the next creation. So when he exhales again the next creation starts, right? But some of the conditioned souls who follow the transcendental sound in the form of Vedic literatures and are thus able to go back to Godhead attain spiritual and original bodies after quitting the conditional, gross, and subtle material bodies. So this is how the thing is that when some of the living entities, they merge in the body of Mahavishnu and they wait for the next creation. And some of the living entities who are regularly hearing the Vedic sound, the Vedic literatures and the sound from the Vedic literatures, so they are going to get liberated and they are going to go back to the spiritual world and attain their original spiritual bodies, right, after quitting this material bodies. So we are all trying for that. We are all trying. That's the whole purpose of us coming together and reading these Vedic literatures. Its primary purpose is that the sound vibration of these Vedic literatures may go inside our heart and it purifies our heart so that we can actually take shelter of the Lord and we can go back to the spiritual world. So that's the primary purpose of our reading these scriptures every day, right? So we fall under the second category here, right? So the material conditional bodies develop out of the living entity's forgetfulness of their relationship with the Godhead. And during the course of cosmic manifestation, the conditioned souls are given a chance to revive their original status of life with the help of revealed scriptures, so mercifully compiled by the Lord in his different incarnations. So this is the mercy of the Lord. The scriptures are actually the manifest mercy of the Lord. So except for, it's like if you fall inside a well, anybody throws a rope inside the well, that's a great mercy. If we don't have a rope, how will we catch anything and come out? It is not possible to come out. So if we get a rope from someone from outside, so that's a very nice thing. So in the same way, we have fallen into the dark well of this material world, and the rope is this Vedic sound, that we are trying to hear. The rope is the narrations about the Supreme Lord or the pastimes about the Supreme Lord. The moment we hear them and we develop an attraction towards the Supreme Lord and think that I want to be there with the Supreme Lord, that's it. Our perfection is just a matter of time. We are going to end up in the spiritual world. right? So that's the primary thing that we are trying to do here, right? So here, okay, reading or hearing of such transcendental literatures help one become liberated even in the conditional state of material existence. So iha yasha hare dasya karmana manasa gira nikilapi api avastasu jivan muktasya uchyate. So one who is engaged in the service of the Lord constantly, for him, even even if he is living in this current body, he is considered to be a liberated soul, even before quitting his body, because he is rendering devotional service. And if he quits the body, naturally he'll continue to render devotional service in the spiritual world. So for him, quitting the body is so very nice, actually. All the Vedic literatures aim at devotional service to the personality of Godhead. And as soon as one is fixed upon um, this point, he at once becomes liberated from the conditional life, right? So if we fix up ourselves in devotional service, then we are liberated from the conditional life. The material gross and subtle forms are simply due to conditioned soul's ignorance, and as soon as he is fixed in devotional service of the Lord, he becomes eligible to be freed from conditioned state. This devotional service is transcendental attraction for the Supreme on account of his being the source of all pleasing humors. Everyone is after some pleasure of humor for enjoyment, but does not know the supreme source of all attraction. Rasovai saha rasam hi evayam labdvanandi bhavati. So this is Rasovai saha is one of the what is that? Vedic aphorism, means Vedanta Sutra. It is one of the Vedanta Sutras, like Janmadhyashyata, then Soham, then Tattvamasi. So in that way, like we have the Vedanta Sutras, which is the summary of entire Vedic literatures. So in that, this statement comes Raso Vaisaha. So it is all representing, or it is all denoting to that supreme entity, the absolute truth. So he is full of rasa. Rasa means what? Rasa means a mellow or a kind of a relationship. So we say Dasya Rasa, Sakya Rasa, Vatsalya Rasa, and Madhurya Rasa. So these are all different relationship that we have with the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord is the Akila Rasamrita Murti. He is the sum total of all the rasa, or the mellows, or all the relationships that one can even imagine or think of. And he can, many times people, we see that in this world, like many people are finding it difficult to get along with other people. And then friends getting along is very difficult, and even marriages, husband and wife getting along is difficult, and everywhere we find it difficult. So, but these days, like anybody who's speaking on the topic of relationship is getting very popular and things like that. That means what? Everybody's relationship is in very pathetic condition. So, and here we see the Supreme Lord. He's the Akila Rasamrita Murti. He is perfect in reciprocation in any relationships. So that is why it is the perfection to have a relationship with the Supreme Lord, because he is the only person who can exactly and perfectly reciprocate with us, and nobody else can reciprocate with us in that way, right? So that is why it is mentioned Rasovai saha rasam hi evayam labdvanandi bhavati. The Vedic hymns inform everyone about the supreme source of all pleasure. The unlimited fountainhead of all pleasure is the personality of God. And one who is fortunate enough to get this information through transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam becomes permanently liberated to occupy his proper place in the kingdom of God, right? So that's the ultimate, this one of mukti. Mukti means to quit this place and to be established in the spiritual world, in the spiritual kingdom. So, and it is a proper place. It is our original home. That is in Kannada, like I think one of the devotees like Kanakadas or Purandaradas, somebody like he mentions this, Alliruvudu Nammane, Illiruvudu Summane, like that. So this Alliruvudu means like, that which is there, over there, the Vaikunta. So, or that which is there is our house, and this is like, just time pass, So it is, we are just living here as a time pass, but actual our home is in the Vaikunta. So that is something that we have to like very strongly have that faith on, that our home, real home is in Vaikunta, and what I am doing here is just time pass, right? So we have to get back. So if we go to any tourist place or any other picnic spot or some place and all, So we will enjoy there, but then we will be like having a timers, and we will get back home quickly, right? So we will not be there forever in a picnic spot. So whatever it is, our home is home. So we like to be back at home. So that is the way, here we can see that if we develop that kind of an feeling that Vaikuntha is my home, the Supreme Lord's abode is my home, and I have to go there and settle. No, here there is no point in settling. No, here let everything gets unsettled, no problem. I want to go back to my home and I want to settle there, right? So that's the feel that we should get. That's the faith that we should develop, right? So, okay, so the next, this one, text 7. Abhashascha nirodascha yathoscha adya vashiyate sa ashraya param brahma paramatmeti sabdyate. So this is Ashrayas mentioned here. The Supreme One, who is celebrated as the Supreme Being or the or Supreme Soul, is the supreme source of cosmic manifestation as well as its reservoir and winding up. Thus, he is the supreme fountainhead, the absolute truth. Right? So it is talking about that supreme personality of Godhead. Here, it is having a little indirect representation, but then the Srimad Bhagavatam, right in the beginning, it started off with saying, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, right? So Vasudevaya means the son of Vasudev is Vasudev, that is Krishna. So it is very, very clear that supreme personality is talked about as Vasudeva. And yeah, so now let's see. So that supreme fountainhead, that supreme source. So that is the Ashraya. That is the that entity is the Ashraya, means that which can give shelter, that which can that which can give shelter to everyone else, right? So purport: synonyms for the supreme source of all energies are explained in the very beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Are so these are all some of the synonyms or some of the phrases that are used to explain that absolute truth, the supreme person, right? So what all the things? Janmadi Ashya Yataha. So Jan Adi. So we discussed this usage of words. So Janmadi. So Adi means like there is a list of items that are there, and in that the first one is Janma. So like that is creation, maintenance, and destruction, right? So these three things. The Janmadi Ashyataha. So that means all these three things, creation, maintenance, and destruction, comes from that personality. And that kind of personality is called the Supreme Person, Janmadi Ashyataha. And Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam ejnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabdyate. So this is also called, this is like that, no, that supreme entity. Vadanti means like speaking, and tattva, vadanti tat, about that, tattva vidas, those people who know about the Supreme Lord. So tattvam yajnanam advayam. So that supreme entity, they describe it as non-dual, singular entity. And then what is that supreme person? Brahmeti, Brahma iti. So he is the Brahman, or Paramatma iti. No, he is the Paramatma, or Bhagavan iti. No, he is Bhagavan, right? Sabdyate. So this is the way like they actually call. So this is one of the definitions that is given. So Janmadhya Sheta or Vadanti Tat Tattva Vidas. So this is like called the Parabrahma, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So these are the different words that are used to describe the supreme person. The word iti used here in this verse completes the synonyms and thus indicates Bhagavan. No, this will be further explained in the later verses. But this Bhagavan ultimately means Lord Krishna, because the Srimad Bhagavatam has already accepted the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, right? So this one, Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsha, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indriyari Vakulam Lokam, what is that? Okay. It is mentioned as, I'm not able to remember the entire sloka now, but then it comes something like this. Ete chamsa kala pumsha krishnastu bhagavan swayam indriyari vyakulam lokam mridayanti yuge yuge. Yeah, so this is how the third chapter of the first canto, this particular sloka comes. And there it is very clearly mentioned Etecham Sakala Pumsa. So there is different incarnations of the Lord is being listed down. And finally, it is mentioned, Etecha Amsa. Amsha means like parts or parts of parts. Etecha Amsha, Etecha Amsha Kala. Kala means also parts. No, Pumsaha. Etecha Amsa Kala Pumsa. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. But Krishna is the original source of all these things, all these different incarnations. So it's very, very emphatically declared in Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna is Purna Purushottam Bhagavan, and all other incarnations of the Lord are his portions or portions of portions. So that is how we can understand the various incarnations of the Lord. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. The original source of all energies, or the summum bonum, is the absolute truth, which is called Parabrahma, etc. And Bhagavan is the last word in the last word of the absolute truth. So in that shloka that we saw, Vadanti Tat Tattvavidas, so it is mentioned, Brahma iti, Paramatma iti, Bhagavan iti. So last, what is the last conclusion that is given? Bhagavan iti. So that's the last and complete definition of the Supreme Lord, right? So such as Narayana, Vishnu, and Purusha, the last word is Krishna, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattaha sarvam pravartate. So Krishna is mentioning that, no, I am the source of everything that is coming out, but then, no, this one, like mattaha sarvam pravartate. So rest everything is coming from me, right? So besides that, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the representation of Lord Krishna as a sound incarnation of the Lord, right? So this is very amazing. When the sages of Naimisharanya, they were asking, oh, that now Krishna has gone from this earthly planet. So along with the Dharma, Jnana and things like that. So where does this Dharma take shelter of now? So when Krishna was there, so the Dharma was taking shelter of Krishna. And now where does Dharma take shelter of? So then it is explained, no, Krishna Swadama Upagate Dharma Jnana Divisaha Kalau Nashta Drishamesha Puranarko Adunoditaha. So when Krishna Swadama Upagataha, so he went back, Upagata, no, like, no, he has went back to his Swadama, his own planet. And Dharma Jnana Divisaha, so along with Dharma Jnana and everything, right? So it is what has become Kalau Nashta Drisham. So in Kali Yuga, everybody's drishti or everybody's vision is become dark. No, Kalau Nashta Drisham Esha Purana Arka. So Arka means like sun, and Purana Arka. No, this Srimad Bhagavatam is called as the sun amongst all the Puranas, or sun amongst all the Vedic literatures. No, this is the, no, there can be many stars, but they cannot dissipate the darkness of the world. No, it requires a sun to dissipate the darkness of the world. And then this Srimad Bhagavatam rises like the sun. So that is nicely mentioned here. Aduno uditaha, no, like this is something that we use for even sun, no, when sun like is coming up, no, that is also called as uditaha, right? So Purana or Aduno uditaha, right? So this Srimad Bhagavatam, no, comes to dissipate the darkness of Kali Yuga and to give some light for people to see, right? Thus, by general conclusion, Lord Krishna is the ultimate source of all energies, and the word Krishna means that. And to explain Krishna or the science of Krishna, the Srimad Bhagavatam has been prepared. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, this truth is indicated in the question and answer by Suta Goswami and the great sages like Shaunaka, and in the first and second chapters of the canto, this is explained. In the third chapter, this subject is more explicit, and in the fourth chapter, even more explicit. In the second canto, the absolute truth as the personality of the Godhead is further emphasized, and the indication is the Supreme Lord Krishna. The summary of Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 verses, as we have already discussed, is succinct. This Supreme Personality of Godhead in the ultimate issue is confirmed by Brahma in the Brahma Samhita as Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha Sachidananda Vigraha. So it is concluded in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The complete subject matter is elaborately explained in the 10th and 11th cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the matter of change of Manus or Manvantara, such as the Swayambhuva Manu and Chakshusha Manvantara, as they are discussed in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna is indicated. In 8th canto, the Vaivasvata Manvantara explains the same subject indirectly, and in the 9th canto, the same purport is there. So in the 12th canto, the same is further explained, especially regarding the different incarnations of the Lord. Thus, it is concluded by studying the complete Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Sri Krishna is the ultimate summum bonum, or the ultimate source of all energy. So this is there is a process called hermeneutics. So that is a process to understand what a body of literature, is trying to mention or trying to convey to us, right? So it is seen that what is the beginning and what is the end and what is the subject matter that is discussed in the middle. So all these things put together, actually you can say this particular body of literature is actually trying to convey this message, right? So that is the way of analyzing the literature. That's the way of studying a literature. And here, Srila Prabhupada is actually offering that kind of an explanation. He's coming from first, second, third canto, and then even in the end, like 10th and 11th canto, and then in the middle, everywhere, he's taking, he's mentioning that Krishna is established as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then that is the ultimate purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam, is to glorify the Supreme Lord Krishna. There may be many, many different incarnations that are described in Srimad Bhagavatam, but always the silent thread that is running is, yes, Krishna is the ultimate source of everything that exists, and service to Krishna is the ultimate destination, right? So this is very nicely put forward in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So that's so many scholars also, they have studied Srimad Bhagavatam, and then they come up with the same conclusion that Srimad Bhagavatam is ultimately glorifying the Supreme Lord Krishna. Okay, so thus it is concluded by studying the complete Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Sri Krishna is the ultimate summum bonum, or the ultimate source of all energy. And according to the grades of worshippers, the indications are indications of the nomenclature may be differently explained as Narayana, Brahma, Paramatma, etc. So that same Krishna has been perceived by so many different people in different forms. Text 8. Yodhyayatmiko yam purushaha sova evadi daivikaha yas tatro bhaya vichedaha purusho hi adi bhautikaha. The individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the Adhyatmic person, and the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Adi Daivik. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the Adi Bhautik person, right? So we see that Adhyatmik is the soul, and then Adi Daivik is the controlling deity, like who's controlling the various entities in this world. And that which can be seen, the embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the Adi Bhautik. That means the body is called the Adi Bhautik. Bhautik means like the material creation, right? So this is there are many different classification of Adhyatmik, Adi Bhautik, and Adi Daivik. So here is one kind of classification, right? So in the individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called Adhyatmik. That means so Dehi. So this is very nicely put in the Bhagavad Gita. Dehi nosmin yata dehe. Dehi means the possessor of the body. That means the soul. And here also it is mentioned the individual person possessing different instruments of senses. Like Karana, like different senses that he is possessing. Who is possessing? The individual person or the soul. The soul is Adhyatmik, and then the controlling deity or the devatas, the 33 crore different devatas. So they are the Adi Daivik entities, and then the body that is seen, what we carrying, that is called the Adi Bhautik person. So there are three kinds of distinction that is made here. The supreme controlling summum bonum is the personality of Godhead in its plenary portion of Paramatma, or the super soul manifestation. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said 1042, it is said, Atava bahune thena kim jnatena tavarjuna vishtabhyaham idam krishnam ekam shena stito jagat. So Krishna is mentioning that, like his opulences, vibhuti, No, in so many different opulences he's mentioning. Then after that he's telling that no kim Nyathena Tavarjuna. So like no, it's Atava Bahunaithena. So that means Bahu means like many. There is so much of opulence I have. No, how much I can tell you, Arjuna? No, like, and he just Krishna is mentioning in one word, Ekam Sena Stito Jagat. Just by one spark of my splendor, just by Eka Amsha, like just by one of my Amsha, I just maintain this whole creation, right? So that's how powerful the Lord is, right? All the controlling deities like Vishnu, Brahma, Shiva are different manifestations of the Paramatma feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who exhibits himself in such manners by entering into each and every universe generated from him. But still, apparently, there are divisions of controller and controlled. For example, in the food controlling department, the controller of food is a person made of the same ingredients as the person who is controlled. That means like no, a person who's working, a normal employee and a manager, both are human beings, both are having same kind of a body, right? So okay. Similarly, each and every individual in the material world is controlled by the higher demigods. For example, we have our senses, but the senses are controlled by superior controlling deities. No, we cannot see without light, and the supreme controller of light is the sun. The sun god is in the sun planet, and we, the individual human beings, or any other being on the earth, are all controlled by sun god as far as our eyes are concerned. Similarly, all the senses we have are controlled by superior demigods who are also as much living entities as we are, but one is empowered while the other is controlled. No, it's just very nice description is given that the devatas, these 33 crore devatas who are there, they are like the managers, universal managers and administrators and things like that. So they are also living entities like us, but then they are in a position where they can control things, where they can actually manage and control things. No, that's the this one. So they're also living entities like us. So the controlled living entity is called the Adhyatmic person, and the controller is called the Adidaivic person. So like we are controlled by sun, so we are called the Adhyatmic, and the sun or sun god is like called as Adidaivic. No, that is Adidaivic powers, right? All these positions in the material world are due to different fruitive activities. Any living being can become the sun god or even Brahma or any other god in the upper planetary system by a higher grade of pious work. And similarly, one becomes controlled by the higher demigods by lower grade of fruitive activities. So if I do a lot of punya and lot of yajna tapasya and things like that, maybe I can get to the higher positions and I can be a demigod and control the ordinary living entities. Or if I do some like a lower grade of fruitive activities, then no, I'll end up be born in living entities like this and being controlled by the Adidaivic powers. No, Adidaivic powers. So every living entity is subjected to the supreme control of the Paramatma, who puts everyone in different positions of controller and the controlled. So here in this world, like the demigods are controlling and we are controlled, but everyone is put in the various positions by the power of Paramatma. And Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudani Mayaya. So he says, Krishna says that no, I direct the wanderings of the living entities. Somebody becomes a sun god or moon god and things like that, and somebody becomes an ordinary living entity, and somebody becomes an animal. No, everything is directed by the Paramatma based on his past karmic activities. That which distinguishes the controller and the controlled, that is the material body, is called the Adi Bhautik, Adi Bhautik Purusha. So that is this material body is called the Adi Bhautik. No, so the body is sometimes called as Purusha, as confirmed in the Vedic, as confirmed in the Vedas in the following hymns. Sa va yesa Purusho Anna Rasa Mayaha, Anna Rasa Mayaha. So like this body, Sava Esha Purusha. So like that which is called as Purusha is like Anna Rasamaya. Anna Rasamaya means like that which has been nourished by Anna or food. No, so that is the body. No, this body is called Anna Rasa, no, embodiment. So this body depends on food. The living entity which is embodied does not eat anything. No, that means the soul, who's possessing the body, he does not require the food that we are putting into the body. So the food is required for this body, no, that is anna rasa, right? So anna rasa. So the living entity which is embodied, that means the soul that is there within the body, does not eat anything. However, because the owner is spirit, because the owner is spirit in essence, no, because he is spirit in essence, no material food can satisfy the spirit. So the food that we are putting inside the body is for the body, not for the spirit. So the material body requires replacement of matter for the wearing and tearing of the mechanical body. Therefore, the distinction between the individual living entity and the controlling planetary deities is in the Anna Rasamaya body. Now we have the Anna Rasamaya body. The sun may have a gigantic body and the man may have a smaller body, but all these visible bodies are made of matter. Nonetheless, the sun god and the individual person who are related as the controller and the controlled are the same spiritual parts and parcels of the Supreme Being. And it is the Supreme Being who places different parts and parcels in different positions. And thus the conclusion is that the Supreme Person is the shelter of all. No, we see that in the material world there are so many controllers and so many people who are controlled, but everyone is controlled by the Supreme Lord. So no, that's the conclusion, is that the Supreme Lord is the shelter of everyone, no, both the controller and the controlled. That is why he is called as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, he is the controller of all the controllers, right? Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishna. So there are so many Ishvaras are there. There is so many controllers are there. Ishvara means controller. No, I have certain control, no, in my own home or in my own activities and things like that. I have a certain amount of control. So, but then the Devatas, they have a little broader level of control. But then who's having the complete control? So here in the beginning of the purport, Prabhupada was mentioning, yeah, Sun God is the controller of all the living entities in the matter of seeing. No, if Sun God is not there, then there is no question of light and there is no possibility of we seeing anything. So he is controller of everyone, but on the department of seeing only. But then the Paramatma or the Supreme Lord, he is the controller of everything that exists in all spheres and all matters. So then he is the ultimate shelter of everything that exists. Right? Text 9. Ekam ekatra bhave yada nopla bhamahe trityam tatra yo veda sa atma swashraya shrayah sa atma swashraya shrayah. All three of the above mentioned stages of different living entities are interdependent. In the absence of one, another is not understood, but the Supreme Being who sees every one of them as the shelter of the shelter is independent of all, and therefore he is the supreme shelter. So this is very interesting thing. Now, the three things that we discussed, they are all interdependent. Absence of one makes it like completely the whole equation goes for a toss. Now, how is it that we'll see? So first is we saw Adi Atmik, that is the soul, and Adi Bhavatik, is the material body, and Adi Daiva is the controlling deity, the different deities like sun, moon, and all the 33 crore devatas. So now, who are these devatas controlling? Devatas are controlling the Adi Bhautik thing. No, they cannot touch the Adi Atmik. They cannot do anything with the soul. They are controlling the body. They are controlling the material things around us, and they are controlling our body. No, so if the connection between the demigods and the living entity is this body. So if the living entity is not having the body, so then the demigods cannot control the living entity. So demigods control the living entity only through the body, right? And if the living entity is not there, the body is dead. So what will the demigods control? The dead body. So they cannot do anything. And if the demigods are not there, the living entity and body is there. So without the activities of the demigods, this body cannot move. So it is mentioned, if I want to lift my hand, I desire, I as a living entity, I desire. And then the Lord sanctions and the material nature through these demigods, it actually executes. So even to lift my hand, I need the action of a particular demigod. So even to evacuate, I need action of a demigod. Even to digest, I need the action of a demigod. The fire in the stomach, it's Now, Krishna mentioned Ham Vaishvanaro Bhutva, this Vaishvanara, or the fire, the digestive fire. So that's a different entity. So like this, we can see that any material action has to happen. All these things has to happen. I have to desire, first of all. No, without my desire, nothing is going to happen. So I have to desire, and the Lord has to sanction, and the controlling deity has to execute it. So, and where the execution will be on the body, no? So I am desiring, but the effect is on the body. And I'm thinking that I am this body. So much I'm like connecting myself with this body. So like I'm getting affected by the changes that are happening on the bodily level, right? So in this way, we can see that these three things are interdependent, and any one of them is not there in the equation, the whole equation will collapse, right? So, but then the Supreme Lord, no, is shelter of everything, no, like shelter of all shelters, no, that's nicely mentioned, no, sva ashraya ashrayaha. So like he is the shelter of all shelter. So why? Because he is not interdependent with anything, he is not dependent with anything, he is swarat, he is completely no independent. No, that's the meaning of the Supreme Lord. And because he is completely independent, he can do anything and everything, right? So that's the and because of that, he is the shelter of all that is existing, right? So sarva karana karanam. So one is the source of everything is Krishna, and then the second thing is the shelter of everything is Krishna. No, that is the this one. I think this is going to be a little longer purport. So anyways, we will start with this tomorrow. There is one question here. Did Krishna know or could foresee that if he bestows power to demigods, we conditioned souls will never come to know that he is the be-all and end-all of everything? Our knowledge and prayers would be confined to our materialistic desires, everyday operations and not liberation. Who's to be blamed for this ignorance? So we are to be blamed for the ignorance. So we had seen this example of the sun, the clouds, and the observer back in the ground. So now, if the observer has to see the sun, so like if it is covered, the sun is covered by the clouds, he cannot see the sun. So now he is not able to see the sun. So who has created this clouds? The clouds has been created by the sun itself. No, the clouds is created by the sun, and then that clouds is covering the sun so that we are not able to see. So, but why did the why did the sun do that? No, why did the sun actually created the clouds? Because the living entity did not want to see, see the Supreme Lord. He wanted a space separate from him. No, literally we have done this thing to the Lord, that I don't want to be with you. No, I want to be separate. I want to enjoy separate. No, I don't want to see your face again. So then the Lord actually creates this material world and says, okay, fine. No, you cannot be there in a position where you cannot see me. No, literally that's not possible, because everywhere, in every aspect, I'm there, and the whole creation is permeated by me. No, aham sarvasya prabhava, right? So like whole creation is permeated by me. So where will you find a place where I'm not there? So, but you have desired that you want to be separate from me. So then I have to create a place where you can be there and you can forget me. No, then the ignorance is brought into the picture. It is out of our will. No, we have brought this ignorance into the picture. And the Supreme Lord, he is very, very dear to the living entity, and living entity is very dear to him. And Supreme Lord is, like he likes the living entity so much that he also comes with the living entity as Paramatma, as Paramatma, and he sits within the, he sits along with the living entity and he travels in the path. And then, here, like when the living entity is thinking that I want to enjoy this world, and the Paramatma is satisfying that. So that is why we saw in the previous purport, I suppose previous purport or in this purport, we saw two kinds of facilities are arranged. One facility is arranged for fulfilling the material desires. Another facility is arranged to go back to the spiritual world. The sadhus are coming, the scriptures are coming, and the Lord himself is taking so many avatars and things like that. Even though all this, all of them, they don't regard the Supreme Lord and things like that, but still the Lord again and again comes, and then he gives an opportunity for the living entities to know him, understand him, right? So this is the special mercy of the Lord. So we have taken a call to be in ignorance, and then this is a desire that we have, And this desire is a contaminated desire, and this desire has to be thoroughly cleansed. So that is why the Lord is putting us through these various experiences of life, so that we can actually take a final and foolproof decision where 360-degree, there is no getting back, like going back to the decision of being separate from the Lord. So Krishna is when we actually say, okay, no, Krishna, I'm not liking this material world. No, you just take me back to the spiritual world. Then Krishna will say, like, okay, fine. The material nature will say, okay, fine. No, you didn't like this aspect of the material world. Why don't you try something else in this material world? There is so much more wonderful things are there. So, and then the living entity becomes satisfied, then finished. So like that's one side of this one. Another side is the sadhus, and the Supreme Lord himself also comes as different incarnations, and he displays and he gives this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and things like that. So this is also very important. No, the Lord is bound by the promise to the living entity, saying that he will not means he will give whatever the living entity wants. And the Supreme Lord, that's why he's telling the devotees that those who are endeavoring to give this Krishna consciousness to others, they are very, very dear to me, because I am bound by a promise that I agreed to this living entity, saying that whatever you wish, I'm ready to fulfill. And then eko bahunam yavidadati kaman. And then, but I'm also concerned about this living entity. So he comes, he sends the devotees of the Lord to preach the message of Krishna consciousness, right? So that's the way of this one. So it is by our wish, it is by our wish that we have, we are in ignorance. And if Lord were to play some tricks, and if he has not put this ignorance in a proper way, that means it would be a cheating to us, saying that, we wanted to be separate from you, like we wanted to be separate from the Lord, but then Lord did not create a sufficient arrangement to exist in a place where the Lord is not there. So then that will be a problem. So Lord is a gentleman. Whatever we asked for, he has given, and we are suffering for it. So we should come to a point of no more asking anything. We should go on to the Lord and say, I am such a fool. I don't know what is good for me. I keep asking this and that and things like that. And every time I end up in problem. So now enough of this one. I don't want to ask anything. You are my shelter. You are my ultimate protector and maintainer. You know what is best for me. Please do whatever is best for me. So that's a very nice way of approaching the Lord. So even now we see, like, every time we go to the Lord, we say, like, I have a plan, my Lord. I know how I can become happy in this world. So I have this plan. Please sanction it. Like, you don't need to tax your brain for what is good for me. I'm just presenting what is good for me. Please sanction it, right? So that's how most of the people they go to the temple. And one time, actually, we had kept a box where wish box. Wish box means, like, people come and write their wish and put inside this one. And we opened up, and it's just kind of an exercise we did. And we opened up and saw everyone is coming with a plan and telling the Lord. And we didn't see even, it was like somewhere around 1,000 cards we got in our temple in HBR layout. And out of 1,000 cards, not even one card told that, I don't know what is good for me. You are the Supreme Lord. You know everything. Please do whatever is good for me. Nobody has written that. Everybody had come up with a plan. I am suffering in so and so way. This is the solution. Please grant this solution. And like, we are in ignorance. We cannot get to the right conclusion, right? So that's where the scriptures, and that's where the devotees, that's where the Lord is also trying from his end the best. So the one thing that the Lord has given to us is the independence. He will never force us to be there in the material world. He will never force us to come back to the spiritual world. He will always give us a choice. He will always give us the right direction, but we have to take the right direction. That's there in our hands. Right. So hope this answers the question, and we come to the end of time today. So thank you all very much for joining this Bhagavatam session. So Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.